Hello and welcome everyone, I'm Raptor, and I'm here to make some videos on my personal favourite musical moments in each volume of RWBY. Why am I doing this? Well, firstly, I just wanted an excuse to talk about RWBY's music to someone who isn't myself, and secondly, it's fun. For this first video, we'll of course be focusing on Volume 1, for which I have painstakingly arranged a top 15, plus honourable mentions that didn't quite make the cut. Full disclaimer, a lot of entries on this list are only in the positions they're in because I am awful at picking favourites, and having a top 15 where 5 separate moments all come in at number 3, all because I can't bring myself to pick one over the others, would kinda just defeat the purpose. So, yeah. But again, this is all just for fun and to just appreciate the work put in by the composers over the years, because they are awesome. So without further ado,
Hello and welcome to Beacon.
Who's that?
My name is Glinda Goodwitch.
Oh.
coming in at number 15 is the end of Chapter 1, where we have RWBY and Yang staring out over the city of Vale from the airship on their way to Beacon. The music here is probably the grandest version of the Beacon theme we hear in the show, and is one of the very first things I think of when it comes to Volume 1 of RWBY. Personally, it carries a lot of nostalgia, and it's a moment I vividly remember watching for the first time, followed perfectly by the opening and This Will Be the Day.
You were worth every cent, truly you were.
Speaking of This Will Be the Day, the next entry is from earlier in Chapter 1, during the confrontation between RWBY and Torchwick. As Roman flees, we hear the opening guitar riff of This Will Be the Day played on strings, soon followed by the lyrical melody of Red Like Roses, the very first time it appears in the show. It's not particularly long or flashy, but I feel like it serves as a wonderful musical introduction to the character of Ruby Rose. Dr. Bartholomew Oobleck is introduced with perhaps the most appropriate music of any character in RWBY. It's fun, energetic, and eccentric. Maybe the best part of this moment, though, is how the music matches Oobleck's erratic movements as he zips around the classroom. The Forest of Foreverfall is arguably the prettiest location seen in Volume 1, and I feel like that beauty is matched in the music. It feels like a fairy tale, which is quite fitting considering the many inspirations behind the show. What's perhaps most noteworthy here, though, is the musical connection that is forged between two particular characters in this scene. This is an idea I personally refer to as the secondary Arcos theme. Why secondary? Well...
Why didn't you activate your aura?
Huh?
Your aura.
Gesundheit.
Jean, do you know what aura is?
Next up we have the scene where Pyrrha unlocks Jean's aura. Here we have a wonderful reference to the main Arcos theme, which is probably more recognizable to most people, considering it's the one that was used as the basis for the song Foreverfall in Volume 6.
Once, like a dream, you looked at me.
So, we have the main Arcos theme that eventually became the song Foreverfall, and the secondary Arcos theme that was introduced in the episode Foreverfall. It's perfectly not confusing. Anyway, the music for this whole moment is wonderful. The harp and strings for Pyrrha's speech are deep, thoughtful, and mysterious, and then the horn playing the Arcos melody just solidifies the bond that these two share from this moment onward.
I'm starting to think coming to this school was a bad idea.
Sticking with Jean, we now have the scene with him and Ruby talking about leadership. The music here sounds nice and all, but the main reason I've placed it here is because this is technically the origins of Jean's theme. The ideas written here would eventually come back in Volume 4, associated with our lovable noodle boy, but before then it was just a standalone piece of music, although it was referenced in one episode of RWBY, but whatever. I personally just love looking back on this music and seeing it, and the scene itself, laying the foundations for Jean's growth that we've seen over the years.
That girl.
You know her?
Not really.
In Chapter 3, we get our first proper scene with Blake, and as you may expect, it's also the first time we hear from Shadows in the score. To me, this version of From Shadows is the perfect encapsulation of Blake as a character, or at least Blake as she is in Volume 1. It's beautiful and melancholic, and it feels distant in a way, yet there's a hopeful feeling in it, especially towards the end. I feel that themes and leitmotifs are at their best when I can listen to them and think, this is a character's soul represented through music. And this is one of the many times in RWBY where I get that feeling. Next up is the confrontation with the Ursa Major in Chapter 14, aka My Greatest Shame. Why do I call it that? Well, you see, kind viewer, the music in this whole scene is, in my opinion at least, a super clear and obvious reference to This'll Be the Day. However, back in the day, I did not notice this. Not during Volume 1, not during Volume 2, not during Volume 3, Not during Volume 4, but during Volume frigging 5. It took me like 5 years to realise what it was, and my stupidity still hurts me to this very day. Silly story aside though, the music is bloody brilliant. It's still probably my favourite version of This Will Be the Day that we've had in the score, which is why it's on the list. It's great. In Chapter 15, we have the argument between Blake and Weiss, which, shockingly, features From Shadows and Mirror Mirror. They're played on the piano, an instrument that is key to the musical identities of both characters, which, in my opinion, adds a lot to the conflict between them in this moment. They're opposites, black and white and all that, yet they share similarities with each other, and I love that the music is the part that's telling us that. Did someone ask for more Arcos? Next up is both the rooftop scenes from Chapter 12 and Chapter 14. Why both? Well, that's because the music is almost the exact same in each scene, and it's this music that, to me at least, is the definitive version of the Arcos theme. Like, if I'm asked what the Arcos theme is, I point to this. All the individual parts and ideas that make up the main Arcos theme are on display here with Time to Breathe, making it the perfect example.
Oh no.
The fight at the docks comes in at number 5, serving as our big set piece for the Volume 1 finale. Thematically, it's primarily made of Torchwick's theme, which is heard every time he's in action, from the opening of the fight to his duels with Blake and Sun. RWBY's arrival is accompanied by none other than Red Like Roses, and then we take a bit of a different route as Penny enters the fray. The music here doesn't feature any theme or motif references as far as I know, but there is one significant thing that is noteworthy, and that is that the official soundtrack features a whole extra minute and a half of music going past what's heard in the show. There's never been an explanation for this. Maybe the fight was originally going to have more to it and things were changed for whatever reasons there may have been. Whatever the reason though, it's still an interesting and unique part of RWBY.
I was once a member of the White Fang.
Wait a minute, you were a member of the White Fang?
That's right. I was a member for most of my life, actually. You could almost say I was born into it.
Next up is the White Fang flashback story thing from the finale. The music here is entirely from Shadows, which probably doesn't surprise anyone since Blake's the one talking, but there's a bit more to it than that. The song From Shadows has always been Blake's music. We all know that. But the song's lyrics have always read like the collective perspective of a group of people. That, of course, being the White Fang. So, motifs and musical ideas from the song can just as easily be used to represent the White Fang as they can to represent Blake. And this scene is the first instance of such a thing. Probably without doubt the most loved and popular sequence in all of Volume 1 is the Deathstalker / Nevermore fight from the end of Chapter 8, Players and Pieces. It's here where Monty got to go all out for the first time in the show proper, and it's also where Jeff Williams got to flex doing what he does best. The music's great from start to finish, the highlights being the first occurrence of Nora's theme, one of Blake's beautiful piano runs, and, of course, Red Like Roses Part 2, which might just be the most iconic moment in the show. So for the number 2 spot, I'm cheating and combining 3 separate moments into one. It's my video, I'll do what I want, all involving a certain dashing villain by the name of Roman Torchwick. These are Torchwick's intro in Chapter 1, the final scene of Chapter 8, and the post-credits scene in the finale. The first one is one of the greatest introductions to a character theme of all time. Yes, I'm biased, shut up. As I mentioned earlier, I am a sucker for themes that are the musical embodiment of a character, and for me, This moment is just one of the best at that. The second scene is kind of similar, but I love the way it opens. Those low strings and the repeating of the first two notes of the melody give such a darker feel, and it's great. And then the third one takes that same idea, but has a choir doing the notes, which somehow makes it sound even more sinister, and it makes me melt in musical joy. I love it. A lot. So, in an attempt to compile a top 15, there were inevitably some that didn't make it. They're all great and deserve to be mentioned, so I'm going to mention them. Ren's fight with the King Taijitu. Sounds awesome, and it's kind of unique for RWBY, I've always felt, but maybe that's just me. Weiss's fight with the Borbertusk. Fun music that introduces one of the Grimm motifs, and has a really neat callback in Volume 7. RWBY's landing in the Emerald Forest and meeting Weiss. A short, sweet, and easy to miss reference to This Will Be the Day, and a wonderful little version of Mirror Mirror. Landing strategies. Very simple piece of music, but I love it every time. Also includes the first appearance of I Burn in the score. And finally, the gang's all here. I cannot explain why it's so appealing to me, but it gets stuck in my head all the damn time. RWBY and Weiss's argument in the Emerald Forest. Might seem like a bit of an odd choice to put at the top, but let me explain. Musically, we just have Red Like Roses and Mirror Mirror playing together sorta like a duet. The idea is simple, and it is one I absolutely adore, but what makes it really special, in my opinion, is the instrumentation. Each theme starts with the same instruments that the songs do: strings and guitar for Red Like Roses, piano for Mirror Mirror. Red Like Roses begins with the iconic opening riff / ostinato, and then ditches the guitar for more strings when Mirror Mirror starts. In the middle, Mirror Mirror gains a woodwind, playing the vocal melody, while Red Like Roses stays the same. Then for the ending, the Mirror Mirror melody moves to the strings, and low horns come in, now playing the vocal melody from Red Like Roses. And then some more strings join in right at the end to finish off the piece. The transitions are seamless, and the instrumentation conveys so much emotion and expression that it just elevates the whole scene for me. And that's why it's at the top of the list. And there you have it, my top 15 musical moments of Volume 1. What are yours? Be sure to let me know in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed my first foray into this kind of video. It's still new to me, but I've had a great time creating the lists and writing the scripts. Be sure to check out some of my other videos if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one where we'll be covering my favorite musical moments from, you guessed it, Volume 2.